You can see I got some puddling underneath my bag. Howdy folks, it is Sunday morning, 41 degrees, and we're out on the Greenwater Lakes Trail again. I have got this place to myself. When I pulled in, the parking lot was completely empty. There is rain in the forecast for today, so the likelihood of anybody being out here, pretty slim. So we're hiking up to the Greenwater Lakes to a couple of campsites that I found a few weeks ago when I was out here. I'm going to test out a tent that I've had sitting in my shed for probably the better part of a year. Some winter sleeping gear that hopefully it's going to be warm enough because it's supposed to get down into the low 30s tonight. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy this beautiful hike in. Talk to you guys in a little bit. I'm sure the phone is not doing this hike any justice, but the way the light is shining through the trees, there's a fresh steam coming up off the ground. Just a beautiful morning. Absolutely gorgeous. The tent we're going to be trying out today is the X-Mid 2. I know I'm a little late to the game on the X-Mid. I bought this, like I said, almost a year ago. It's been sitting in my shed. I just didn't have the opportunity to go out on a solo hike yet this year. We've had some great family camping trips, but that involves a much bigger tent for my wife and my son and I. So we're going to figure out how to set up the X-Mid 2. I've never set it up before. I did pull it out of the bag to make sure all the pieces were there, but that was the extent of my tryout. I know not exactly best practice, but I'm sure we can figure it out. Bear with me. Is it a perfect pitch? Absolutely not. But I don't plan on doing any singing tonight, so I think it'll be good enough for what we're doing. And I even managed to bend one of the tent stakes. Now, I've heard other YouTubers say that the stakes weren't really heavy duty and you should probably switch them out. Now I see what they were talking about. This is a clay and rocky area, so it's pretty muddy on the surface, but once you get down below that surface level, it goes down to some heavy, heavy mountain rock. And I apparently hit a rock, didn't even realize it, and the stake just bent in half. But, oh well, I had a couple of extras, so we're good to go. I'm going to get the sleep system set up in the tent, and then we'll head out and go do some adventuring. I'm doing a little bit of foraging for firewood because I want to have a fire tonight. I'm not going to cook with it. I brought my stove, but I just like to sit around a campfire. And I came across some of this old fat wood that's out there, and it has dried pitch inside of it. You gotta be very careful when you're handling it so it doesn't get too sticky. But this pitch is an amazing fire starter. It is probably one of the best things you'll ever find out there. Get a good flame on it, and it goes right up into ignition, burns long and hot, and it'll help us get the fire started. So a great find here. But I need to do a little bit more foraging. It is super wet out here. It looks like it's been raining for days. So I'm not having a whole lot of luck, and because it is a popular camping area during the weekends, everything's kind of picked clean. So I'm going a little bit farther up into the trees, looking for some windfall. Obviously, you don't ever want to cut branches. Look for fallen trees, rotting logs, something that's not acting as a nurse tree, something that's going to be safe for you to grab a hold of and not cause any long-term effects. I think I mentioned that I'm carrying a little bit heavier pack than normal. Well, that is because I brought a few luxury items with me. We're going to be playing with our out-in nano espresso machine again. I thought it was worth the extra weight. I mean, it's less than 700 grams. And according to the specs, it can make up to 4 hot brews. So we're going to give it a shot. I want to make sure I've got the right pod lined up in here. So I'm using a medium roast. Yep, and these are just the simple little pods. This is good for basically 1 shot of espresso. You can get pods that are for larger quantities, but I'm finding just that nice 40 to 50 milliliters is the perfect amount. So we're going to put this together. We need to put in some fresh water. And the last time I used this, I got some comments about my brew looked weak. And the reality is, it was. I was doing a very light roast, and I tried to squeeze a little more out of the pod than it was designed for. It's not the espresso maker's fault. So basically, we're going to just give it a 1 push. Hold it for 2 seconds. And that's going to tell it, go ahead and start heating the water. And I'm using super cold water that I just pulled out of the lake and filtered. So it's going to take about 3 minutes to fully come up to heat. Once it does, it'll start brewing our cup of coffee. Well, I know I've promised a full review video, and I will get to it. But so far, I'm just having fun using this. But there we have it. That is a nice 50 milliliter espresso made from a medium roast. And it took just shy of 5 minutes for it to fully bring it up to temperature. Again, I'm using ice cold lake water. Now, if you're using room temperature water, it's going to be a lot faster process. But I tell you, it's worth the wait. So I'm out scouting out potential areas to hang my food tonight. And I tell you, I keep striking out. If you look up, these are some of the most amazing trees I have seen. And not a single branch in sight. So I may have to walk a little farther away from my camp to hang the food tonight than I wanted to. But at this point, it's not really a whole lot of alternatives. I've thought about getting a bear can, which would just make sense, right? It's simple and it's easy. You walk out of your camp, set the can down, put a rock on top of it, problem solved. But I'm just not quite ready to make that investment. I don't do enough overnights where I need to worry about hanging my food or a bear can for me to justify the cost, except for days like today, where I'm not having a whole lot of luck. But we've still got a couple more hours of daylight. And I've still got to cook up dinner. Those rain clouds are getting darker and darker up there. So I want to make sure I get dinner done before the rain comes, because I don't want to have to cook in the vestibule of my tent. Today's dinner is going to be pretty simple. We're going to be using our, I think this is a 650, nope, 550 mug and our little BRS stove. Going to be making a beef stew, but instead of using just regular beef, kind of cheating, and I brought some pepperoni sticks. It's not going to seem nearly as good as what I had for dinner last night, because we had a roast for dinner last night. But I thought about bringing leftovers, and I realized that maybe a roast might be a little too enticing to a bear. So, simple and easy. Beef sticks, some potatoes, carrots, nice shallot. We'll get a great stew going and warm us up before bedtime. That's part of the reason for the extra weight today, is because I'm bringing all fresh ingredients. I do have an emergency freeze-dried meal, but I think I've been pretty open about how I feel about those meals. So we're going to stick to the good old basics. Guess I better go get some water first. That is delicious. And there's not much things better than a nice hearty stew on a cold afternoon. I'll tell you, the temperature has dropped, I don't know, maybe 15 degrees at this point. We're starting to get a mist settling on the lake. This tells me we're probably going to be in for a cooler night. Again, I brought a lot of extra layers on this trip just because I don't quite trust that new sleeping bag of mine, but right now, I'm nice and toasty warm with a good stew, a beautiful view of the lake. I can just kick back and relax for a little while. So here's the plan. I've got our food bag. I've got 50 feet of cordage, a little micro carabiner that I've hooked up to the sack that our BRS 3000 came in. Filled it full of rocks. I'm going to use that as a weighted rope. And there's a branch about 25 feet up that I think I can hit. It might take a couple of tries. So wish me luck. that was easy. I don't even want to guess how many times that took, but you can see the bag is indeed up there in the tree. It's about 15 feet off the ground, and we're about 15 feet away from the tree. So certainly going to be secure for the night. It was not nearly as easy as I was hoping it would be, but I guess that's learning, right? Might definitely be worth investing in a bear can. Well, right on time. Of course, I finally get the fire started, and now it's starting to rain. That's right, it's just a light drizzle for now. I'm gonna try and enjoy a few minutes by the fire at least till the rain puts it out and chases me off to the tent for the evening. This has turned out to be a fantastic day, even with the rain. You know, this isn't just any old weekend hike. Today's actually my birthday, and my wife gave me the greatest gift I could ever expect to have. And that was the opportunity to come out here and do a solo overnight adventure. I can't remember the last time I actually did an overnight camping trip all by myself. I mean, I love our family camping trips and our outings and our adventures, but there's just something about having the whole forest to yourself and the isolation. It just gives you a chance to relax and hit that reset button. Whew, that is some loud thunder rolling in too. But despite all of that, this has been a fantastic birthday. I got to start the day with my family, and I'm going to get to end the day around a campfire at an Alpine lake and sleeping out. Just an amazing day, and I am so thankful to have had this opportunity, even with the rain. So here's a trick to help keep warm on a cold night. If you take a fancy Nalgene bottle and you put in boiling water, and try not to burn yourself at the same time. But make sure the lid's totally secured and there's no moisture coming out. And then this will go into the foot box of your sleeping bag, and it'll add a nice extra layer of warmth, and it'll help warm up that down before you get into the bag. So instead of losing your body temperature to warm up the bag, it'll already be ready for you. It's almost like being at a 5-star hotel. Of course, I don't know if turn down service puts a water bottle in your bed anymore. That might have gone away a long time ago. So the rain is starting to pick up even more, and I know the camera doesn't really show it, but it's starting to get fairly dark around here. We're pretty close to 6 o'clock. Nope, a little after 5, but it is already starting to get dark. So I'm gonna let the fire die down and pack things up, and then get ready to crawl into a sleeping bag and have a nice relaxing evening and listen to some of the rain. Before it gets too dark, I thought I'd show you guys the inside of the tent. There is tons of headroom, and I know this is the 2-person tent. I think technically you could fit 2 people in here, but for me, I think it's a 1-person with extra room. Maybe my wife and I could fit, but you'd have to have 2 20-inch pads. You wouldn't be able to do the larger 24-inch pads. But basically, I'm hunkered down for the night. It's the rain is coming down a lot heavier, so I'm in my sleep gear. I like to wear different clothes when I sleep. I don't like the dirty pants, so I've got some nice synthetic wool blended sleeping pants. I'll put on my puffy jacket here in a second. But I'm gonna settle in for a night, listen to the rain, and maybe catch up on a couple of episodes of Supernatural. So, folks, I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. It's about 7 a.m. Having kind of a lazy start to the day. The sun should be up in about another 20-25 minutes. It rained for a good solid 13 or 14 hours last night. But I was toasty warm in my sleeping bag. Unfortunately, my not so perfect pitch got a little bit of water in the tent. You can see I got some puddling underneath my bag, and in the low spot, the tent ended up having the outer rainfly touched the inner here, and it caused some water to start building, and it flowed down the side and puddled up. So I'm actually dry where I'm at. My bag stayed dry, my sleeping mat stayed dry, which that was good. But there is, again, a little bit of water puddled up in the area, so I obviously need to work on this pitch of my tent if I'm going to be sleeping in rainy days. First things first, let's go see if we can retrieve that food bag. We'll find out if my hang was as unsuccessful as my tent pitch. As you can see, it's still incredibly dark here in the forest. It's amazing. You get away from the lake, the tree coverage just darkens things up. So peaceful, though. Oh, and the bag is still hanging. We were successful. So for breakfast today, got a little bit of a treat. I'm going to start off, make some hot cocoa. We'll make a fresh espresso with our out-in nano. Make a little bit of a camping mocha to get warmed up and get the day started. And then for our actual meal, I've just got some pre-mixed muesli that I'll put together with some warm milk and call it good. Even got water inside my pot this morning. So what I discovered after I climbed out of the tent is, obviously I should have set this up a couple of times before I headed out for an outdoor adventure. But the pitch of the tent was great, but I didn't have enough tension in the lines. So as the rain came, the outer part of the Durston started to sag, which makes sense. New material, first time being set up, it's going to have some stretch to it. But I don't know. So yeah, the outer layer of the Durston started to sag, and then it eventually touched the bug net on the inside. And as you know, as soon as your rainfly touches your bug net, that's now a pressure point or a contact point where moisture can start to get through. And because of that, I had about 3 different spots inside the tent where water was able to come through the rainfly, touch the bug net, and then work its way down. And had a wonderful swimming pool effect. So my backpack, I'll have to pull out and get it drying because it is soaking wet also. Luckily, I had everything inside stuff sacks, so there's no risk of any of my safety gear being wet or any of our supplies. The electronics were safely tucked in the toe box of my sleeping bag. so that we could make sure that it stayed nice and warm and didn't drain the batteries prematurely. But it is definitely definitely a soupy mess in there. So if you've watched any of my other cooking videos, you'll learn that I love this Mexican style cocoa. It's got just some extra little spices and flavors into it that just give it a nice little extra taste. I found yesterday this took just about 4 minutes for the water to get fully warmed. And unfortunately, I think the water is even colder today than it was yesterday. But, I used lake water yesterday after I filtered it. And today I'm just using the leftover water that was in my bottle overnight. But it dipped down into the lower 30s last night. So I don't think we quite hit freezing, but it was pretty close. So this is definitely some ice water that we're working with. But by the time the water is warm and the espresso starts, our cocoa should be about ready too. We'll combine the two, have a great mocha to kick off the morning. I switched into my raincoat because it is starting to drizzle again, and I don't want my puffy jacket to get wet. So our mocha is done. I'm going to set that off to the side, let it cool just a little bit. It's a little toasty. And we'll do a quick mix up of the muesli, then head over to the lake and have breakfast by the water. So we just have some powdered milk, fresh water, and then we mix it up. Looks like we had some visitors last night. Down here along the river edge, there's all kinds of muddy tracks where something came down to get some water last night. I didn't hear anything. With how heavy the rain was, you probably could have had somebody standing right outside my tent and I wouldn't have noticed. I can't tell what type of tracks they are just because it's so muddy and so washed out, but yeah, we definitely had some friends. We are all packed up. Got the kit back on my back. This bag is absolutely soaking wet. This is the Gossamer gear. I picked it up on Facebook Marketplace. several months back. I got it for a whopping $100, so I thought it would be worth a try. Comfort-wise, it's been amazingly comfortable. I really enjoyed using it yesterday. I'm carrying, I think, about 20 pounds. With food and water, it was up to 25 pounds. Carried very comfortably. Again, just for an afternoon, so I haven't put it on a full extensive try out yet, but I'll work on that later on this year. But anyways, we are all packed up. Time to say goodbye to the lake. Get back out on the trail. It's got a light rain still falling. The only reason I actually have my raincoat on is actually because my backpack is so wet. I didn't want to get my clothes soaked. It's certainly still a cool morning. I don't think we've reached 40 degrees yet. That's all right. So I'll build up a good sweat on the way back to the car and call it quits to this adventure. I gotta tell you, this has been a pretty awesome birthday weekend. Started out on Friday night. My wife and son and I went out to a great dinner. Saturday we had family over and we spent the day laughing and playing. And then yesterday, packed up the car and I headed out into the woods for an overnight adventure. And listening to the rain all night long was just so peaceful and relaxing. Yes, waking up in a swimming pool was a little unexpected, but I did stay dry and I stayed warm, and that's the most important part. But all in all, I would rate this off as a successful weekend trip. I really appreciate you folks coming along with me. I hope you enjoyed it. If this is the kind of content you'd like to see more of, please let me know in the descriptions or comments, and I'll see if I can get away for any other adventures. If you haven't hit that like and subscribe button yet, I hope you consider doing so. The support is greatly appreciated. So until next time, folks, hope to see you out there on the trail soon. Let's go for a walk.